Okay, here we're going to talk a little bit about comparisons, and on this test really it's faulty comparisons, right? So what this refers to, right, is when there's a comparison in your sentence, make sure that the sentence is comparing like to like. All right, what that means, right, is for you at least, is you need to find the two things that are being compared in a sentence and see if they are basically apples to apples, right? Are you comparing two of the same things, or are you comparing two different things? All right, so let's look at some examples, all right, of faulty comparisons. Number one, students at North Brunswick High School took more midterms than any of the other schools. Well, what is being compared in this sentence? Well, it's really students at North Brunswick High School and the amount of midterms they're taking compared to any of the other schools. All right. Is this like to like? Well, students are people, right? Whereas any of the other schools are buildings, right? Schools are buildings. You associate with schools as having people in them, right? But that's the tricky thing about this sentence, right? How you would fix this faulty comparison is rewrite it to say something like students at North Brunswick High School took more midterms than students at any of the other schools, right? Then you're comparing students taking midterms to students taking midterms instead of students to schools. Okay, so that's the first example. The second example is a little more subtle and harder to see, but let's see if you guys can get it. It says, like the earliest jazz, the earliest blues singers incorporated improvisation into their music. Okay, well, what are the two things being compared? Well, the earliest jazz is being compared to the earliest blues singers. All right, is that like to like? Well, not really, right? Jazz is a type of music, right? A genre of music, whereas blues singers, again, are people. So you're comparing a genre to people, right? In order to correct this sentence, you would have to say, like the earliest jazz musicians, the earliest blues singers incorporated improvisation into their music. That way you're talking about musicians, which are people, right? You're comparing them to singers, who are people, right? And they're both incorporating improvisation, all right? So to recap, whenever you see a comparison in a sentence, make sure the sentence is comparing like to like. So find the two things that are being compared. Make sure it's apples to apples and not apples to oranges.